My name is Seth Brogdon. I'm a senior, and I'm majoring in textiles and apparel, and I design avant menswear.
So first, tell me about yourself as a designer and an individual.
As a designer, I think I'm scatterbrained and like disorganized for sure. Like I think I'm like this mix of super almost like hands off, very like unfocused, but also super like repetitive and like meditative almost, I guess, as a person and as a designer. I feel like I somehow managed to be a perfectionist and also like not really care at the same time, I guess.
Tell me about your creative process. How does this influence your creative process?
I think I have a very intuitive creative process. Like there's definitely a lot of internal conflict happening because on one hand, I can be like a little bit academic where I'm like, okay, this is my concept and I'm going to approach it like this and I'm going to explore these things and like this is what I want to communicate. But as I progress through whatever it is that I'm doing, it usually tends to like never ever go the way that I plan it to. So I think maybe I would say like I'm very like adaptive and intuitive as a designer, and I'm very focused, or I guess inspired by like, I don't know, music. That's a main like facet of what I do, is just kind of using music to like potentiate or like as something to like design to, I guess. Very like musical and spiritual process. I do a lot of like praying too and like meditation, which is very important to me as a designer.
So what is the inspiration for your collection? Is there a specific designer, person in your life, time period, culture?
Well, I think that in terms of things that inspire me, if you asked me for names of designers, like they would almost all be Japanese. I've had experience working with Japanese designers. I wouldn't say that is like something that I took and decided to be like, you know, this is what I'm going to pursue and this is what I'm going to emulate. But I think that like in terms of my experience and the things that I value, that's there. But I would say like this collection is kind of like, it's a difficult question to answer because it is inspired by the feeling of like sort of of like birth almost, of like the difficult entry into adulthood. Because I sat down and I was thinking, this as a project will be my way to like say hello to the world, like in a creative way. Like this will be, you know, like people will see this and be like, this is who this person is like as a designer. And so I was thinking about like what I wanted that to be, and I realized that I had no idea what I wanted that to be at all, because I think that like I just think that everyone involved in this is very young. So for me, it was kind of inspired by like that feeling of like trying to figure out who you are like as an adult, and like trying to shed those things that like keep you in your youth almost. So because of that, it was more of like a process for me. Like I don't think you could look at anything that I made and say like this is an academic, or not academic, but like there's no focus there. Like nothing that I'm not making this and saying like this is like a metaphor, like this is a representation. Like it's not a metaphor. It's more so of like you're like watching someone like trying to figure that out, I guess.
How do you feel about your completed products and then being showcased in the upcoming show?
I think it's really terrifying. I'm not gonna lie. We are in the lab like so much. Like we're always here. Like we almost live here. We put a lot into this, you know, and so it's just like it can be a very neurotic and like very tiring thing to like put so much work into something, and it still is just kind of beginner almost, you know what I mean? It's like you're spending a lot of time on something to be showcased to people, but at the same time you know that it's like I was saying, like you haven't found like your identity, you haven't found like what defines you as a designer. So I think it's very vulnerable for a lot of people. There's no like bedrock almost, like there's nothing to stand upon. Like that's what we're like making, so it can be a bit like scary, I think, for sure.